We've got momentum, we've got growth, we've got exciting leadership, and I know we will have all of these. As of today, effective today, I am no longer leader of the Green Party of Canada.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Vashi is away today, and Elizabeth May is stepping down as Green Party leader, a role she's held since 2006. She led the party through 4 elections and became the first Green MP elected to the House in 2011. This year, she saw her party grow to hold 3 seats in the House of Commons. And while the Greens have named an interim leader, May says she will stay on as the party's leader in Parliament. So why did she resign her post after 13 years, and what's next for her party? And Elizabeth May joins us now. Ms. May, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, David.
You just got through an election. You just got your high water mark for seats,
Yes.
and you're gone.
Yes.
Why do it now?
Not gone. I'm staying in
Going,
Parliament.
yes.
I am working hard. I plan to run again in Saanich Gulf Islands whenever we have another election. But it's time, and I wanted to choose the time of my own for deciding, this is when I'm going. We can have a leadership race. It'll be good for the party. We have momentum coming out of the election. So I'd rather go out on the best election results we've ever had than some politicians who tend not to know it's time to move on. I want to be the one who picks the best time and be vital and engaged in supporting a new leader going into the next election campaign.
Best election results you've ever had, but still I would suggest maybe a little bit disappointing considered to where things were. I mean, is this a sign that maybe you've taken the party as far as you can go as leader?
I was going to say, my decision to step down has nothing to do with whether I had hoped for more seats or not. Of course, I'm a wildly optimistic human being, and I had hoped for more, but I knew no matter how well we were going to do in 2019, that this was my last election. So it's time to step back and say, okay, what's the best time? It happened that this weekend we had a great constellation of green governance bodies and our shadow cabinet. We had a lot of good people all together in Ottawa with the three-seat caucus that we have. So it was a good moment to say, what's the best time? And I proposed to the federal council that governs the party that I'd like to step down on Monday, and let's ask if we could get, that was twisting arms to make sure that Joanne Roberts would agree to be from deputy leader to interim leader, and launch an election, a leadership campaign that will culminate with a new leader for the Green Party by October 2020 in Charlottetown.
So look, in the past 12 months, you've increased your caucus by 300%, but that's from 1 to 3.
That's good, though.
But why not more? Why do you think you didn't break through more? There was polling going into the election, had you in the double digits. Vancouver Island looked more promising than it ended up being.
We had an onslaught of nasty and dishonest campaigning with the NDP must have been hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, honestly, to listen to a sinister woman's voiceover, it seemed to me I heard it constantly. Elizabeth May will support the Conservatives. That's right, Stephen Harper's Conservatives. I mean, the NDP they did what they did to hang on to seats. I have to be able to work with them in the next Parliament. That hurt us. It certainly cost us seats to be faced with a campaign that was essentially dishonest.
And this is targeted mostly at the Vancouver Island seats,
all
right?
Vancouver Island. I mean, I had multicolor leaflets coming in my own mailbox to tell me that I was a liar. So that's that. It's over. We also, of course, and I think that the polling showed that 1/3 of people who made up their minds late in the game were voting strategically. So that, again, first past the post as a dysfunctional electoral system encourages people to not vote for what they want, but to vote slightly holding their nose so that they won't get something they don't want. Their worst option drives the vote out of fear. That's unfortunate, but let's face it, it didn't cut into our vote anything like it has in previous elections. We got more than 1 million Canadians voting Green. We more than doubled our vote, not just in some parts of Quebec, but right across the province. And we had a lot of second-place finishes, strong campaigns, and with this incentive and the momentum of a leadership race and asking Canadians, if you want to help pick who's the next leader of the Green Party, join the Green Party now and be involved in what's going to be a very exciting year.
I just want to go back to the Vancouver thing. You said it was nasty and
Vancouver
it was dirty.
Island.
Vancouver Island thing. You said it was nasty and dirty, and it came from the New Democrats primarily. Jagmeet Singh has tweeted that congratulations and he's looking happy you're staying and looking forward to work with you. Do you believe him when he says that after what happened during the campaign?
I will try to work constructively and positively with Mr. Singh.
Did he do dirty in the campaign with what they did?
He sure did.
Have you spoken to him since?
No.
Will you speak to him? Is this something you
If he
need
reaches
to talk
out
about?
to me, I'd be happy to speak with him. But when somebody repeats things that they know not to be true, it's hard to have the same level of respect you had for them before, especially since we had extended the hand of cooperation in not running a candidate against him in Burnaby South in the by-election. We helped the NDP secure the seat for Jagmeet Singh. I didn't expect them to go out of their way to do wonderful things to help us. Obviously not. There was no quid pro quo. I didn't expect to get dishonest literature through my own mailbox in my own riding attacking me. I have to say I was disappointed in him.
Do you think he owes you an apology, or is this just the way politics is?
If this is the way politics is, we're in a lot of trouble. This was an American style, really dishonest, and really unfortunate. But I don't, an apology would be great. But no matter what, Greens in Parliament are committed to working across party lines with other parties. And I can hold my head up high knowing that we didn't do anything negative in the campaign.
You talk about working across party lines. The leader of the Quebec wing of your party, Alex Tirella, said part of the problem is that you perhaps work a little bit too much across party lines, and the Greens are too much of a left-right coalition, and you need to make a bank to the hard left if you're going to succeed in the future. What's your response to that?
I'm not going to comment specifically because Mr. Tirella is apparently a contestant.
He's thinking about it.
Well, I can't at this point, and we had a long conversation this weekend, so let me take it out of the specific to the general. I know of a lot of really great Greens who are thinking of running for leadership. I want to encourage some terrific people to run, but I have to be completely neutral. And at this point, I can't comment on any of the potential candidates.
Okay, but what about the issue? I mean, you are kind of a left-right party, and that, climate is the core issue, but you try to reach to all sides. I know one of the criticisms I heard about the Greens during the campaign is that you're conservatives with bicycles. That,
that was NDP propaganda. If you look at our platform, we have policies that are more socially progressive than the NDP. We are the only party in 2015 that was campaigning on pharmacare. In 2019, we were the only party campaigning on guaranteed livable income, on a wealth tax, as well as finding the offshore money so that we could afford to get to a balanced budget, not through austerity, as the NDP accused us falsely of doing, but through finding revenue so we could afford socially progressive programs. We have absolutely nothing to be defensive about on this notion that the NDP like to put out, that we're somehow conservatives who recycle. Fiscally appropriate conservatism tied to austerity is something that does not apply at all to Green values. We would never put ourselves there. We do believe that there are a lot of former progressive conservatives who find themselves homeless, and the Greens are a good option for them.
What about the criticism, though, that's come from some people, including Mr. Tirella? And I know you don't want to talk about him as a potential successor or as a candidate, but that there was some ambiguity on positions, for example, on a woman's right to choose and on abortion, on sovereignty and separatism.
There was no ambiguity in any Green Party positions, nor in mine personally. And on this show, but with a different host, I made it very clear that we would never retreat 1 inch from a woman's right to a safe, legal abortion. That's a fundamental position of the Green Party. We're very clear on that. What Vashi asked me, as you probably recall, was, would I whip the vote? Well, we have a policy passed by our membership, which I completely support, that we think whipping votes, telling MPs once they're elected, you can check your brain at the door. From now on, you're going to do what the leader says. That's not us. But there's not a chance in the world that, I can't whip a vote to say that we'll stop a pipeline. I can't whip that vote. But Greens aren't going to go to Parliament either trying to reopen the abortion debate or get pipelines approved. It's just not our values.
But you can't form a government without some discipline on things. I mean, is this not something the Greens maybe need to look at down the road, a more disciplined approach to enacting party policy and communicating party policy?
Here's the point. I've seen the other parties, all of them, whip their caucus to vote against their own policies, their own membership, their own MPs, sometimes in tears, like the NDP members who had to vote to bomb Libya because they were whipped, came up to me afterwards, literally with their faces stained with tears, that they had just voted to bomb Libya because they were forced to. Whipping votes is not part of Westminster parliamentary democracy. Actually, it's not necessary in any way, shape, or form. If you can't, through consensus and working together, come to a reasonable position so that your MPs speak for their constituents but ascribe to party values, that's who we are. That's what we offer voters. It's a very important distinction for us. And Greens around the world have been in government and have found ways, as my colleagues Andrew Weaver and Adam Olsen and Sonia Furstenau in the BC legislature. Tremendous discipline, but no whipped votes.
We're into a minority parliament. Nobody really knows how long this thing's going to last, so probably a couple of years if history is a judge. Are you taking a risk by waiting a full year to have a convention to replace you, or what's the thought process there?
What the process is really one that it takes the time it takes, which is why I stepped down today. I said to the council this weekend, we could postpone it, we could wait, but there's a lot of clarity in saying my resignation is effective Monday. And we worked through this as a group together. Does this make sense for everyone? It's what I want, but is it okay with Paul Manley? Is it okay with Jenica Atwin? How does council feel about it? But when you start counting backwards against how long it takes to run a really strong leadership race, how long it takes to vet the candidates who might want to run for leadership, how long it takes to make sure that people have a fair chance to consider, do they want to throw their hat in the ring? And we have a convention planned with a big auditorium booked, which was planned already for October 2nd to 4th in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. The timing is perfect for a leadership race, which puts us in a position, I roughly guessing, you never know, but I don't think we'll be hitting an election before October 2020. We'll have coming out the gate, I'm confident, of a strong, inspiring, wonderful, fresh leader who attracts all the excitement that being new in the political field tends to do. And I'll be there working with them as the candidate for the Green Party in Saanich Gulf Islands.
Okay, thanks for your time. That is sounds weird to say that, former Green Party leader, Elizabeth
Sounds wonderful.
You're free. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So as we've been discussing, Elizabeth May is stepping down as leader of the federal Green Party. May says she wanted to leave the role on a high note after her party won 3 seats in last month's election. But her decision comes as some party members launched a petition pushing for a leadership race as soon as possible. One of the petition's organizers was the leader of Quebec's Green Party, who even said he was considering a run to replace May. So now that she's gone, will he jump into the race, and where does the party go from here? Alex Tyrrell is the leader of the Quebec Green Party, and he joins me now from Quebec City. Mr. Tyrrell, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So the job is open, the top job in the federal party. Are you going to run?
Well, it's definitely something that I'm considering. I mean, I've had people writing to me from all across the country, Green Party members urging me to consider running for this position of the leader of the Green Party of Canada. And I think a lot of people are looking for somebody a little bit younger, but that also has experience and is completely bilingual. So I do fit all those criteria. I've been leading the Green Party of Quebec for 6 years now. I've brought it through 2 general elections, and I'm 31 years old and perfectly bilingual, so I think those are all good things, and it's definitely something that I'm very strongly considering doing.
Ms. May has been there for over a decade. She's kind of synonymous with the party in Canada for a lot of Canadians. What do you think this departure means for your party?
I think that it means that now the Green Party has to really start a deep conversation about the direction that we want to take moving forward. Do we want to really go above and beyond in what we've done and propose something a little bit more radical to Canadians that reflects this growing youth-led climate movement, or do we want to keep doing what we've been doing in the past? And so I think that it's a really interesting opportunity to debate the way forward.
So it sounds like you want to change the way the party functions and maybe the way the party runs itself. So what's your assessment of how it did in the 2019 campaign?
I think that the Green Party's come a long way over the last few years, definitely come a long way under Elizabeth May's leadership, but now it's time to move forward. And I think that the 2019 election, although there were some modest gains, there were definitely some mistakes that were made. There was ambiguity around the question of abortion, for example, the question of continuing to extract the Alberta tar sands, ambiguity around independence in Quebec, and even about Quebec Bill 21. So I think that the Green Party suffered by not being clear enough on some very important issues.
So what do you think was the root cause of those mistakes? Was it Elizabeth May herself as leader, or the way the Green Party functions? Because it has a looser discipline structure, I suppose, is one way of describing it, than the other major parties.
Right, so historically in Canada, the Green Party has been sort of a left-right coalition. And it's one thing when you're trying to recruit as many candidates as you can from across Canada, but if you want to bring the party to the next level, the message has to be consistent across the country and across the different candidates that are there. And so that's what I've done so far with my leadership in the Green Party of Quebec, is that we took this party that was a left-right coalition and made it a clearly left-wing eco-socialist party. And I think that the Green Party of Canada should adopt the same strategy.
How would it do that? What is it? I mean, we saw national pharmacare, we saw a living wage, we saw a lot of free tuition, for example. We saw a lot of progressive policies from the Greens. What's not left about the Greens?
Well, there's definitely a lot of very progressive policies, a lot of excellent policies, but when you look at the messaging and particularly the slogan that was chosen, not left nor right but forward together, it's really sending the message that it's more of a centrist party. And I think that when we're faced with this rising youth-led climate movement, people are expecting somewhat radical solutions from the Green Party of Canada, and they're expecting politicians to really go above and beyond what they've promised so far. So I think that that's what the Green Party of Canada needs to do now. We have to really go back and look at where do we want to go from here, and what can we do to better reflect this emerging environmental movement.
But you say you need to go further left, but the core value of the party is to deal with climate and the existential crisis that the climate change threat presents. Isn't that both a left and a right issue? Don't you need people from both sides of the spectrum to tackle that properly?
Right, but I mean, there is a growing consensus amongst the environmental movement that the struggle for environmental protection and social justice are inherently linked and inseparable. And I think that that's one of the things that's made it difficult for the party, is that it's not really realistic to say, well, look, we're going to do everything we can for the environment, but things like, the right to abortions, well, it could be compromised by certain candidates. We can't tell, for example, women that, well, your rights are not going to advance as quickly because we need to concentrate on the climate crisis. All of these struggles have to move forward together, and I think that that's the message that we need to put forward.
If you look at the left wing of the political spectrum right now, though, in Canada, it's gotten pretty crowded. The Liberals, I know they're not as left as you would probably like to see them. They've banked pretty hard that way under Trudeau. The NDP is there. It's a pretty crowded field there for the Greens to distinguish themselves on the national stage.
That's why I think that the Green Party needs to go a little bit further than we have in the past. And I think that if we put forward a strong, principled, eco-socialist platform that really goes as far as we need to go to address the climate crisis and also to address social inequality in this country, that we could really manage to unite the entire Canadian left behind the Green Party of Canada. And that's what I'd like to see the party do. Okay,
so you say you're thinking about running for the leadership. What's the timeline for you to make a decision on whether or not you're going to do this?
Well, quite honestly, I was a little bit caught by surprise about Elizabeth's announcement today. I didn't think that it would come so quickly. So it really just happened a few hours ago, and I'm really heavily considering this, and I'll be making a decision in the coming days and weeks.
Okay. Alex Tyrrell, leader of the Quebec Green Party, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
As of today, effective today, I am no longer leader of the Green Party of Canada, and the new acting leader is Joanne Roberts. I'll introduce her in a sec to say a few words. I'm staying as parliamentary leader of the Green Party caucus. I'm very excited about this.
So exactly 2 weeks after the end of the 2019 federal election, Elizabeth May is no longer the leader of the Green Party, but she stays on as parliamentary leader of the caucus. So why now? And how much power is May really given up, given the interim leader will not sit in the House of Commons? Time for the Power Panel. In Calgary, Kathleen Petty, the executive producer of CBC News in Calgary. In Toronto, Ginny Roth of Crestview Strategy is alongside Brad Levine of Council Public Affairs. Former Quebec Liberal Cabinet Minister Yolande James is in Montreal. And here with me in studio, the CBC's John Paul Tasker. JP, I want to start with you.
Sure.
Liz May says she wants to step down while the party has a bit of momentum. They did increase their caucus by 300% from 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Is that momentum?
Well, I want to reality check her a little bit here. She said, okay, our results in Quebec doubled. So let's look at the numbers, 2.3 to 4.5%.
Yeah, 2 times 0 is 0.
So yeah, 2 times 0 is 0. I mean, this is her second best result, despite all the hype heading into this thing, right? You know, we had all those successes in the provincial wings of this party in Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, and BC, where they're the official, or they're working with the government as the third-party partner there. That didn't translate federally. I mean, she got marginally more votes than she did in 2008. And in fact, her numbers were lower percentage-wise than what she got in 2008, 6.5 versus 6.8. So that's not exactly a huge victory in my books. But, I mean, she is right. It was a better result than 2015. She did prevent some of those progressive voters from totally peeling off from her party and going just to the Liberals. But she still only got, a third of what the NDP got nationwide. So that is not exactly, a ringing endorsement of her leadership. So it was probably time for her to go.
Okay, so one of the areas where the Greens, I guess, underperformed expectations was Vancouver Island. And I asked Elizabeth May about this off the top of the show, and she had some tough words for the New Democrats. Just take a listen to what she had to say. You said it was nasty and dirty, and it came from the New Democrats primarily. Jagmeet Singh has tweeted that congratulations and he's looking happy you're staying and looking forward to work with you. Do you believe him when he says that after what happened during the campaign?
I will try to work constructively and positively with Mr. Singh.
Did he do dirty in the campaign with what they did?
He sure did.
Have you spoken to him since?
No.
Will you speak to him? Is this something
If he
you need
reaches
to talk
out
about?
to me, I'd be happy to speak with him. But when somebody repeats things that they know not to be true, it's hard to have the same level of respect you had for them before.
Do you think he owes you an apology, or is this just the way politics is?
If this is the way politics is, we're in a lot of trouble. This was an American style, really dishonest, and really unfortunate.
Brad, while that interview was airing, I got a text from a New Democrat saying Elizabeth May is full of compost, is the word I will use. What's your reaction to what she had to say about your party's tactics?
Well, I'm hurt, David.
You need a moment to recover.
I was here today to acknowledge 13 years of Elizabeth May's leadership of the Green Party and to wish her well in future endeavors and the new, she's bringing in some new folks to take on some new leadership roles, and be respectful and classy about it. But listen, she's fighting over a leaflet. All the leaflet had was words that she had used. It's sharp contrast, elbows up. This is what politics isn't about smearing your opponent, but when you use the words of your opponents and they don't like it, then the problem doesn't lie with you, it may lie with them. But I do wish Elizabeth May all the best. She's going to be around in the House of Commons. There's lots of good work to be done. Minority parliaments are a great opportunity to get the job done, and I look forward to watching the Democrats work with the Liberals and parties of all political stripes.
Ginny, what's your sense of where the party is right now after 13 years under Elizabeth May? They do have 3 seats. They only got 6.5%. They seem stronger provincially in some provinces than they do nationally.
I think this is kind of an exciting time for them. And while I don't love Elizabeth May's comments today, I think she's trying to do some legacy protection work. I do think it's smart for her to step down now because she gives her party a lot of time to really think about, what they want to be. And globally, I think Green parties are struggling with this because as you get increasingly progressive parties defining themselves along climate change lines, as we see with our Liberal Party and our NDP Party in Canada, and Conservatives coming forward with a climate change plan as well. It becomes increasingly tough for a sort of a single issue party to define themselves. It's inherent in their name, right? They're the Green Party. So what do they do next? What kind of party do they choose? Regionally, where will that leader be from? A leadership is one of the best ways to grow your party. You sell a ton of memberships. So I'm kind of excited for them. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
Well, Yolande, one of the people who is considering leadership is Alex Tirel, who is the leader of the Quebec Green Party. JP went through the math of the results in Quebec. How would Mr. Tirel maybe change things for the Greens, and is there hope for them in Quebec?
Well, it'll be up to him to be able to define how he would best, and be curious to hear his interview with you, be the best person to represent that. But I can certainly say, all while recognizing, and I don't think that we can overstate how much over the 13-year period that she was leader, that it's not been an easy task for Elizabeth May to be leader of a party that doesn't have official status, about being heard and constantly bringing her party ideas and policy to the forefront of the discussion hasn't always been easy. That being said, as much as, and naturally she's going to want to spin the results of the last election positively, I think that especially if we look in Quebec in the pre-campaign mode, there was a lot of expectation and a lot of momentum towards the Greens that flat out didn't come to pass for a lot of reasons, but part of that was the fact that Ms. May really struggles in French, and in spite of her efforts, and I am the first to recognize that she's tried really hard, but I think that has certainly been a big challenge for her in the French debate in terms of being able to get and be able to speak directly to Quebecers in French, and the Bloc obviously was able to capitalize on that. I think in looking forward, one of the issues for sure that I think that the Green Party has to be looking at in terms of leadership is one where they'll have a leader that's going to be able to be fluent in French in order to speak to electorate in the next campaign.
Kathleen, Elizabeth May struggles in French. She also definitely struggles in Alberta. And despite making some gains in this election, we're now going into an interim leader period for at least a year. What are the implications of a party looking for a breakthrough to now be in this sort of interim outside of Parliament leader situation?
Well, let me just say a lot of parties struggle in Alberta, David, so not just Elizabeth May and the Green Party. The other thing I would say, too, is that I think the Green Party at the provincial level, where they've had some success, It's been about the party. I think at the federal level, the issue has been, it's been the Elizabeth May party as opposed to the Green Party. And it seems to me this opens up all kinds of possibilities as they look for a leader who can communicate a party platform rather than sort of a personal brand, which I think largely dominated how the Green Party, certainly from this neck of the woods, ended up seeing the Green Party. What they saw was Elizabeth May, like her or not. It was about her primarily, at least it certainly came across that way. And although, sure, she improved, but she had 13 years to improve, I should hope so. And, you know, you can crunch the numbers and make any argument you like, but at the end of the day, it's still 3. And the expectations were substantially higher than that. And perhaps her stomach for it is not what it once was, hence her reaction to the NDP campaign on the island.
Brad, I just want to get a quick thought from you. I look at some of the results, in particular in Atlantic Canada, near and dear to my heart, that a lot of the vote that didn't go Liberal, didn't go Conservative, it went Green in some cases, and we've seen a change there provincially. They broke through in Fredericton. How worried are you as a New Democrat about that shift in alternative votes on the East Coast in particular?
Yeah, right. Well, you've got to be mindful of it. I mean, I think that the party would be wise not to ignore the fact that the Greens got, you know, neither of the above when you're tired of the Liberals and the Conservatives. That's territory that obviously New Democrats want very much. But I think that Jagmeet Singh needed to get through one election to assess where he needs to do the work. Clearly, Atlantic Canada is going to have to be a place where he spends a lot more time. And Jack Harris, of course, is going to, I think, be crucial to bringing him inroads into Atlantic Canada. But you can't ignore the areas. You have to have a 338 strategy. You got to be competitive in every riding. And Atlantic Canada, 32 seats, not unimportant in the next round.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.